to put some of your minds at ease, this is not all about, self-defense isn't about all kicking and punching. Violence isn't the answer to everything, but it is an answer when you need it, in the right circumstances. And this first initial session is to show you when and where you should be using what kind of response, and I call it an action response. So I've been doing this Defense Unlimited now for the past 12 years. I think 2008 was when I first started my company, and I quite literally have trained thousands of people in my sort of methodology of self-defense. So why do we do self-defense training? I use these stats not to shock, but to give people a contextual in terms of what are we dealing with in South Africa. And I give them this number in particular, which is 1693. Okay. Now that means you can become a victim of South Africa 1,693 times per day as a person living in South Africa. Now this isn't stats which I pulled out myself. This is stats based on the latest crime stats that we had, which was released last year, September. There are 58 murders per day, 52 attempted murders, 144 sexual offenses, majority being rape, 526 robberies, and 913 assaults every day for 365 days per year in South Africa. So what has this pandemic basically caused us? And I'm sure you guys, up until the lockdown, you've realized that there's been a lot of panic buying and fear of what's going to be happening. And this was the result. You've seen things like people going on a mass sort of buying spree and just really going crazy, buying everything that they can find themselves. This was a picture at Macro Woodmead, and people just queuing and buying stock like crazy. The two bottom pictures were at Woolworths, what my sister sent, and basically the stock was also cleared out. So this panic and fear is what the coronavirus has been causing. And I don't know if you guys have seen this video. You know, this is some of the results of that panic and fear, is that people have resorted to actual violence.
Hey, stop! That's enough! Are you joking? Go away from my daughter.
Stop. Please.
I just want one pack. No, not one pack.
What's the limit?
This pandemic has caused a lot of fear and ignorance as to what's out there, and it doesn't help that we have, for instance, deputy ministers making false accusations of Chinese businessmen being sick, and you guys have all seen the repercussions of that. And I'll show you some of the results. And obviously, sort of the leader of the free world calling it the Chinese virus doesn't really help sort of the Asian community. And I say Asian as a whole because most people can't differentiate between Chinese, Japanese, Korean, etc., etc. So the entire Asian community has been sort of being stereotyped. So we've seen in our recent newspapers and social media of the effects of having that fear and ignorance of this. These were just sort of snapshots that I took out of some social media where Chinese people around the world, both America and Europe, being assaulted or being abused because just by being Chinese. In Canada, America, and Europe was the one that I looked at. So these were some of the snapshots. More closer to home, we had things like a Chinese shop being burnt down, right? And just because it was Chinese. And then we had things like this floating around on social media where they were actually sort of inciting violence against Asian people. And that's sort of what prompted me to get to take action and sort of put this call out to the community that, listen, if people are starting to think like this, please be prepared. It's not saying that everyone will become like that, but the idea is all you need is one fanatical person that will take a social media meme and actually do something about it in the physical world. So where they start assaulting people. And again, it's happened in America. This is why I say it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when it will happen to someone here, and we're still someone that you might know. So why do people resort to this? And I'm going to show you someone called Abraham Maslow. He was an American psychologist who sort of devised this hierarchy of needs. And basically the hierarchy said that every person, every human being has these sort of basic these needs in their lives and at different stages. The first two is called basic needs, physiological and safety needs. And this is why people would fight over toilet paper, because their physiological needs are being threatened. And that is things like air, water, food, shelter, sleep, clothing, reproduction, and obviously toilet paper, because you need that to clean yourself. So this is why people, when they hit with the sudden panic and sort of pandemic or crisis, they revert back to what we call their primal instincts, their will to survive. And this is very important to understand why a lot of people react the way they do. The physiological need overcomes their logical thinking. The level above it is where I operate, the safety needs, your employment, resources, health, and property. This is again very linked to your basic needs. If your safety is endangered, all right, then you can't really operate anything above that. And what I mean, you can't operate or achieve anything above that are your physiology, your psychology needs, and your self-fulfillment needs, sort of your love and belonging, your self-esteem, self-actualization. My self-defense training really consists of what I call the 3 A's, and it's things like awareness, alignment, and action. Now, people are aware of awareness, and they talk about awareness in a very broad perspective. You're like, just be aware, But my awareness actually has, or the way I define awareness in self-defense, has 3 levels to it. And the first one people already know is about the primary question, is about self-awareness. What is it that makes you tick? What are you willing to fight, die, and kill for? That is the primary question, understanding yourself. Later on, I'll talk about a whole bunch of other awarenesses. We won't go into too much now. But we look at things like fear, social conditioning, your capabilities, vulnerabilities, your aura, trigger, and what I call action fit. Is that what you decide on, what you're willing to fight, die, and kill for, is entirely your decision. But it has to be done when you're in a conscious state of mind, when you're logically thinking, and you're not being held under duress or under pressure. You have to do it while sort of like now, when you can ask yourself, would I be willing to fight, die, and kill for my husband, my child, a belief that I believe in? And a lot of people don't. And again, I use road rage as a case in point. People that are victims or sort of perpetrators of road rage, they have an emotional reaction rather than a logical reaction or logical decision. If you think about the consequences, like you already said you have, it makes you less likely to get into a situation where you have to either fight, die, or kill. All right, then we move on to the next one, guys, which is the next principle of action. So remember when I said action fit? There are 3 principles. Awareness, which we discussed in detail. The next one is action, and the last one will be alignment. Now, this action one has 5 actions. Most people, when it comes to self-defense training, only think of 2, fight or flight. Does it sound familiar? All right. But the idea is fighting isn't always an option. Running isn't always an option. All right. The last part of it is to align. Okay. So the principles that I teach about in self-defense is really simple. Be aware, have some actions, and then align it. Be sure that what you're willing to fight, die, and kill for, and what your action that you're going to take is aligned. Make a decision, assess the risks, plan of action, and practice. It's as simple as that. I have a nice saying, which is again from a samurai maxim: the more you sweat on the mat, the more you practice essentially, the less you'll bleed on the battlefield. If you want to join with some of our self-defense training, we'll do a Zoom session again like this. We meet once a week on a Thursday from 6:30 to 7:30, and we go through some of the theory and we go through some of the sort of the fighting techniques that we go through. Unfortunately, until we can meet, it will have to be online. I show you, you mimic, and I can observe. I'll also send you links to some more resources. So if you'd like to, I'm offering this for April at $450 a month. That's 4 sessions in April. It's not much, but it does help me as a businessman, as a martial artist, as a teacher to get through this month, essentially. Then lastly, just to say thank you again. If you want to, follow me on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube. I do have a whole bunch of material on there already that you're welcome to check it out. Please check it out, follow me, engage with me online, because it helps boost my profile. And yeah, I just want to say thank you for taking the time, and I hope you found today's lesson helpful and that it will keep you safe. Please be safe out there, stay healthy, stay home, and maybe one day I'll meet you all in person.